thank everyone who submitted questions, everyone who asked questions, and everyone who attended this evening. And thanks for bearing with me through all this. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for all coming out to the Leeds and Grenville Federation of Agriculturalists Provincial All Candidates meeting. NDP candidate David Lundy. Liberal candidate Ray Heffernan. And the Green candidate Charlie Taylor. I'll hand the mic over to Steve.
Well, thank you very much, Rihanna, and I want to take this opportunity to thank you for moderating tonight. As well, I would like to take the opportunity to thank the OFA for again hosting this agricultural debate. This is one that I think all the candidates look forward to, and it has a great history in our ride. As the sitting MPP, I've been an MPP, as some of you know, for the last 18 months, since the by-election in March of 2010. And since that time, I've had a great opportunity to meet with certainly the Federation, both in Leeds and in Grenville. Had many meetings with other folks in the agricultural sector. We've had both the formal meetings, consultation meetings, meetings in my riding office. We've met at Queen's Park with some of the various agricultural groups. We've also met informally. We've had a number of breakfasts, and I've attended both the Leeds Federation banquet in Elgin and also the Grenville Federation in Roebuck. I think there's a number of things in our platform, that change book, that I hope to be able to talk about tonight. Things like reaffirming our commitment to supply management, and also our long-standing commitment to a business risk management program. We also are committed to cutting red tape and making the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs a one-stop shop for everything that people in the sector require. We also want to provide strength to rural municipalities, and are committed to providing the share of the gas tax to those rural communities who would like to spend the money on infrastructure to help those rural communities. As well, I have a bit of a pet peeve. I'm committed to the University of Guelph Grenville campus, which I think is a great agricultural university here in Leeds Grenville. We just opened the new dairy barn that I think many of you probably contributed to. It's a great resource. I think we need to cut the red tape at that facility and provide some new innovation for that next generation of farmers in Leeds Grenville. So over tonight, I hope to talk about those issues and others. Certainly, one of the things that comes to my office a lot is from farmers and farm families is the cost of doing business in Ontario, namely hydro rates, and the opportunity for people on the family farm to have those rates reduced, and also have the opportunity to opt in or opt out of time of use rates, depending on whether that meets their farming operation. So I look forward to tonight, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to make the opening remarks. Thank you.
Well, I'd just like to introduce myself, Dave Lundy, NDP candidate. The NDP has a deep roots to go back, and we were founded by farmers. We were founded by working people, you know, and I'm glad that you, as working people, came out here tonight, and I'd like to thank you for that. I'd like to thank the OFA for, you know, putting this on tonight, but most of all, the people in this room. I know because when I grew up across from 3 farms. My father's best friend was a farmer. I spent years, 13, 14, 15, a little bit of 16, before I got a job at Ponderosa, you know, helping bring in the hay and helping, you know, do some farm work. And it was a good experience for me. I made a little bit of money on the side, and you know, it's been a while since then. But I'd like to say that, you know, I'm a working fellow. You know, and that's what you guys are. You're working people. And what's happened for the last, well, more than 2 decades, is that you've been working harder and harder, and you're not been getting ahead. You haven't been getting ahead because big corporations have been taking your money. You still get the same price, whether it's for a pound of beef, or a pound of chicken, or produce off the farm that you got 20 years ago. And yet you're continually told that you have to be more efficient. You're not efficient enough. That's not, you've got to grow. You've got to become more efficient. But you've already become much more efficient than the companies who actually sell the bread to the people who buy it in the store. Because while you were getting 7 or 10 cents for the amount of wheat that goes into the bread, or 20 cents a pound for your beef, I'm still paying $3, $4, $5 for the beef in the supermarket, which is a lot more than we paid 3, 4, even 3, 4 years ago even. And that explosion in price has come at your disadvantage, and it's come at the consumer's disadvantage. Now, Steve says that the Conservatives are for supply management. Well, I think everyone here in this room should question that, because if you look at what the Harper government is doing nationally about supply management, when you look at what they're doing to the Canadian Wheat Board and their attacks on the Canadian Wheat Board, they're not for supply management. They're definitely not for supply management. And anybody that tells a farmer that, and farmers knew this before trade unions ever happened on the ground, is that you have to work together. You work together to put up a barn, a generation, 2 generations ago. You work together now through marketing boards to ensure that you can market your product and get a fair price for it. That's extremely important. That's something that the NDP stands for. We'll bring small abattoirs back into the communities here. That brings jobs back. We'll work to ensure that the schools stay open. And we do that by bringing money into the rural areas, providing these. Thank you.
I'll just quickly introduce myself. I'm Ray Heffernan, and I'll start by saying good evening, ladies and gentlemen, Madam Moderator, fellow farmers, other people up here ready to take on the job as MPP. And thank you to the OFA for putting on this evening. I want to thank you all for inviting me to participate in this debate. Growing up on a dairy farm and watching family farms slowly disappear makes this topic close to my heart, and it makes me angry. Today, our farm, Charlac Farms out in Charleston, runs a few beef, and we have a couple of horses. It isn't the complex operation that agriculture has evolved for most of you. I may not know all the new technologies, but I understand the part that hasn't changed. Early in the morning till late at night, 365 days of the year, you're out there doing it. Just as I did it for a while, just as I watched my dad do it, my grandfather and Uncle Welly for those who knew him. We understand that that's the fundamentals of farming. Farming isn't a job, it's a passion. And you folks do that every single day. Since I started considering this run, I've asked myself many times why I'm a liberal. And I didn't have to think about it very long because I looked at my family. I looked at what the Liberal Party has accomplished, and I also looked at the values that I had growing up on a farm. I've got a wife, 6 kids, mom and dad, brothers and sisters, nieces and nephews, and they span everything from farmers to grandparents to business people, psychologists, hopefully a vet in the next generation, and musical artists. When I look at my family, I see Ontario. It's past, it's present, and I hope to God the future. It's the same for you. You know where you came from. You watched your parents, your grandparents, toil over the land and eke out a living, and you've done the same thing. Mind you, the tractors have helped a little bit, lighten the load, the different equipment. I got to plow with horses a week or so ago, and I'm glad I had the 2105 white that I had growing up because the horses were too hard. You wonder how, or even if the next generation will be able to make ends meet. As we try and figure this out, how to feed 7 billion people and counting on this earth, and take care of the issues like global warming, it will be you, the farmers, who will be the stewards of this planet. And that is the most important job that you can have next to raising children. And together, we can do it. You'll hear a lot tonight, but remember one thing. If you want your interests represented by Queen's Increase Park, you have to send one of your own. You've got to send a farmer. That's me, Ray Efron.
Hello, my name is Charlie Taylor. I'll just briefly introduce myself. I'm a graduate of Algonquin College, just up here in Perth, in the Construction Carpentry Techniques program. I'm also a graduate of Carleton University in Ottawa, in the journalism program. When I was growing up, my parents had a farm in Lanark. We had 100 acres. It's where I learned how to use a chainsaw and shoot a gun and grow things. And I don't pretend to be an expert in farming by any means, but I'm proud to represent a party that values farmers. And we show our appreciation for what farmers do in the very fact that one of our 5 main platforms is a food and farming platform. We came out with that in May. As far as I know, only one other party has come out with a farming strategy, and they did so a few days ago, and good for them. But we understand that farmers are the backbone of the economy. They play an important role as stewards of the land. The largest landowners in the province are farmers, and we depend more and more on that land to keep us alive and preserve the future of the planet. We understand the important role that they play in maintaining the health of the communities that they serve. Fresh food is a great way to keep people healthy. It lowers healthcare costs, and it's important to the health and well-being of everybody in the community. And for that reason, we put forward a platform that includes working on a food and farming strategy. We want to look into all sorts of ways to make farms pay. We understand that farming is a tough job or a tough passion in this economic climate, and we as a society depend on farmers being around for the next 100 years, for the next 200 years, or as long as we want society to be around. So it's in our best interest to make sure that there's a climate in which farming can continue to exist and flourish.
Okay, so just a reminder, candidates will have a minute and a half to answer questions. So for the first question, for David. This is in the category of predator compensation. The question is, if elected, will your government follow the same path as other provinces who pay trappers or hunters to remove these problems?
Predator compensation. First, let me say that I think that rifles is important to a farmer as attractiveness. It's a necessary piece of equipment. When you're losing economic opportunity, when you're losing crops, when you're losing livestock to predators, you have the right to take action to prevent that from happening. And I will certainly support compensation for livestock loss, and I will certainly support the calling of professional hunters and trappers to ensure that your livestock remains safe, that your fields aren't plundered, and that you can make a profit at the end of the day. I mean, that's why you're doing this. You want to do it to support your family. You want to have a decent opportunity and a good life. And this is one of the things standing in your way. Other things are, of course, the price that you get for your produce at the farm gate. And you need to get a fair price for that. And that's really what you want. A fair price, a fair return on what your investment is, your hard work, the work your family puts in, the work that in many cases, the previous generation put in. So I'll do everything I can to ensure that you guys do get a fair return on your dollar. And I'm really serious about that. Because that's what I do for a living. I work to ensure that my working people get a fair return on the work they do. Thank you.
As a member, one of the founding members of the Leeds Grenville Predation Task Team, this is pretty close to my heart. We are currently putting together a test system that most of you may have read in the newspaper and seen lately about, and what we're looking at is developing a new tool that will give the trappers a better tool or another tool for their toolbox to take coyotes and predators without injuring other animals in the farms. Now, to the question of will we compensate the trappers when we're going and doing this or getting rid of it, I will support working towards compensation for the trappers for doing this. It'd probably be the direct compensation, or it would be directed to the farmers who have paid the trapper, but getting that compensation for the farmer. I will absolutely fight for that. The other thing I will fight for is the Liberal Party just raised the amount of coyotes or predators have attacked their animals. But not every municipality is following that. I will fight to make sure that every municipality follows the rules that were laid out. Then if your animals are worth more than the average, you'll get what they're worth.
I strongly support the right of every farmer to use whatever means necessary to protect their livestock, including trapping or hunting. As far as issuing a bounty, I'm not sure I'd go that far. I think tampering with ecosystems above and beyond what's necessary could have unforeseen consequences that we just can't plan for those. So I think on an individual basis, protect your property, protect your animals, do what's necessary. But as far as the government paying a bounty, I can't see that happening unless it was an extreme situation.
Some of the local municipalities who really spurred on that first public meeting back in April of 2010, and we had a couple of hundred people at the Joshua Bates Center in Athens. It was actually on a Stanley Cup hockey playoff night, so it was amazing. We got a couple hundred people there, and I think really what came out of that meeting was what Ray alluded to earlier, this local committee. And I guess anytime you're going to answer a question, especially after we've expended so much time both at the meeting that was just held this summer and the one that was held last year, is really what we want is a made in Leeds Grenville solution. I think too many stakeholders have been at the table for quite a long time. Although I am a little disappointed with the ministry, with M&R, that they promised at that meeting that they do some studies here in Leeds Grenville, some telemetry out of the chemical office, and it appears to me that they've taken the money that they promised to spend at Leeds Grenville and spend it in Prince Edward. But be that as it may, I think what we need to do is move forward on a Leeds Grenville solution. The one thing I would have to say is this new system the government has instituted, the maximum payouts are for full-grown animals. They're not for calves, which is what coyotes normally get. So I think right now the compensation system, the new one, is flawed and it needs to be changed. It needs to be helped for all the farmers out there that work so hard.
The next question is under the energy category. If your party forms the next provincial government, will it commit to expanding natural gas pipelines into rural areas of the province? And if so, what are the timelines for having this lower cost energy source available?
Our focus right now, as we've said throughout our platform, is not to be using fossil fuels, to move away from fossil fuels long term. Our focus is green energy, working to get more and more solar farms and solar facilities on your farms, helping you, wind farms, and moving all of the green energy projects, including the biogas project, getting that going, especially here in Leeds Grenville. We will continue to fight to do that and not shut down those programs. Yes, we will be moving more natural gas lines through the area. The speed at which we'll do it, I'm not sure, because it's going to take time to get us off fossil fuels. But the long term is, we will be done with coal by 2014, and green will be the way that we go throughout the future.
I question the premise that natural gas is a cheaper form of power. It's not really. Any form of power that is a finite source of natural gas is going to, by definition, get more expensive as time goes on, because supply and demand, if you have fewer or if you have less of an item that's in demand, it's going to become more and more expensive. We're more interested in pursuing forms of energy that are going to get cheaper as time goes on. Forms of energy that take an initial investment, like solar or wind, and then you get free dividends from that for many, many years to come. So while we do appreciate the legislation that was the Green Energy Act that the Liberals put in, our main problem with that is how it was instituted, and it's actually set back the cause of green energy by at least a decade, by really poisoning people's idea of what green energy is, making them, pitting communities against each other. So we're definitely looking at more long-term than simply a quick fix, which the natural gas or which knocking the HST off the gas at the pumps would provide.
Well, I believe that on the energy cost, no matter what we're talking about, whether it's at the Green Farm in Sealy's Bay, whether it's a solar project or a wind project, whether it's a hydroelectric project or a nuclear project, I think moving forward, we need to look at affordability in our electricity system. We all know that over the next several years, hydro rates are going to go up by an additional 46%. Anyone who's had a smart meter put on their homes knows what their bill has done over the last several months. I think no matter what happens after October 6th, certainly our platform, our plan, we want an open and transparent process. We want to pursue all clean and efficient modes of electrical generation. But again, it has to be open, it has to be transparent, it can't be behind closed doors and secret. And I think that's where our platform differs from some of the others when we look at pursuing clean and efficiency, but as well affordability.
So the question was about natural gas pipelines in the rural areas. I think what's more doable and much more impactful would be high-speed internet for small business. You guys are all small businessmen, farmers are small businessmen. If you're going to market your product, if you're going to get the best price for your inputs, you want to be able to check in those situations and changing markets as quickly as you can. You want to be able to access markets as easily and quickly as you can. High-speed internet would do it. It would certainly be a huge help. But also bring more jobs to the rural communities. Keep your young people, give them an extra opportunity to actually have a job locally. Then we talk about, I think green energy is another much more impactful way to go forward. It's a way to produce energy. It's a way for farmers and for those people who have space and land to actually use that land, that may be marginal land, to produce a real return, a stable return, much more stable and much more cost-effective, much more reliable than an RSP. Because we've all seen what happened to the RSPs with deregulations in Wall Street. 13 bankers stole $2 trillion, and we all lost it. We all felt it in our pocketbooks. Yet when you sign one of those agreements, you're guaranteed a steady income. In Sealy's Bay, the local farmer there invested $500,000 locally, went into the local economy and provided jobs for local people. And he gets 40% of his return now. The money he makes comes from the biogas generation.